You're right. It's not a Corvette. It's not even close to one. So sometimes you have to take a break from working on what you work on all week, which is see-through Corvettes, to do something a little fun and I guess you could learn from. So this is I believe it's a 62 Thunderbird, maybe a 63 Thunderbird, that I picked up out of Oklahoma. I specifically bought it for the engine and transmission for another project, but in order to take the time to take it out and spend the time doing all of that, let's see if we can't get it to run first. So, had the tow strap, dug it out of the backyard, and we're going to take it inside and put it on the lift and see if we can't get it to run. Yeah, it's a little rough, but you know what? I don't think it's ever been repainted. The guy I got it from had a bunch of other parts with it from a different Thunderbird. This door is included. The original one of the car is actually in the trunk. But again, it's been sitting a long time. You can see there's really not much left of the inside. The animals have had their way with it. So the plan is, if I can get this engine to run, the engine and transmission will be coming out, and then the rest of the car will be sold, maybe parted. It's just, the sad fact about these is they're, you know, in nice shape, worth $10,000-$15,000. They're not really that expensive. They're also not hard to find. They made a lot of these Thunderbirds and they're almost all about the same. But we'll get it in the shop up on the lift and we'll take a look at it. I always like to get these things in the air just to check them out. Like I said, you learn some things working on different cars. Look at this crazy tie rod setup. This tiny little lower control arm. They have like struts instead of shocks. Anyway, looks like they have maybe a shock inside of a big old coil spring. But remember, this is 1962. But honestly, the car isn't that bad. I mean, the exhaust is rotted off from probably sitting in the dirt, but for the most part, I mean, look at the floors. They're really, really nice. They're super nice, actually. The rockers are really nice, inner and outer rockers. Remember, this is a unibody car. There's no actual frame, so you have to lift using the side parts. But yeah, these rockers are nice. Supposedly it came from Colorado. Looks like maybe there was a piece done right here. Can't really tell. The only real rust on this car is the bottoms of the rear quarters. But even the trunk's pretty nice. That exhaust is just shot though. Look at this. This is the factory spare. That still holds air. Yeah, this is from 1962. And it's probably about to blow up in my face, but you know. There's the old tire size. I doubt they have a date, but it definitely says Goodyear right on it. We'll walk away from that tire. But what we're going to focus on today is the engine and transmission. So, looks like it hasn't really been moved in a long time. And one of the things that prevented me from working on this previously was, well, this. These are, I believe, the starter cable. We're going to have to plumb new ones. But there's the starter right there, and there's, looks like the positive battery cable, just toast. So, we'll get to that once we get the hood open. But the other thing we can do is we can kind of drain the oil and check that out. We can look for broken freeze plugs. I know the exhaust manifolds on these cars like to go bad too. Freeze plugs look good, that I can tell. It don't seem like there's many cracks. I do know it does turn over by hand, so we do know that. How much, I don't know. We'll probably actually cut these belts off because what they're running probably doesn't work anyway. And as you can see, it's all full of crap. Oh look, a bone. That's weird. There's a bone. This has been sitting a long time. Oh, there's a bone. Okay. So these cars were kind of before their time. They had an interior hood pull, and that doesn't work. It's broken, but see that thing hanging down in there? Check this out. Good pry bar. And it pops it. That's it. What's the point? Where's the security? Anyway, at least we got the hood open. That's the important part. All right, there she is. All there. Cool stuff like this still exists, even though it's no good. But anyway, yes, lots of animals and under tree poop in this one. You can see all the dirt and all the leaves and seeds and all that kind of stuff. But when I looked at this car, I got the engine to turn by hand. I barely turned by hand, but it did. So that's all we need to do. So first, we're gonna figure out this starter wiring, and then also we probably should remove the belts that are on it just because they've seen better days. They're pretty crappy. Let's take off this air cleaner and see what we got underneath. One thing I do like about the Fords that Chevy never did was I do like that the distributor's in the front. I can't do this with one hand. Come here. Alright, so we have it's to be a 4-barrel. It's probably an Autolite. Looks like a Holly. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna vacuum first before we do anything else, just to clean it up in here. That's a big old poop! Look, there's an engine in here. It was so packed. It's not even all the way done yet. There's still so much like in between the engine and the inner fenders on top of the manifolds. We'll deal with that here in a little bit. First though, let's turn it over by hand again and see what we're working with. So here's the plan. This is how Ford did their starting circuit. Basically, the solenoid's up here, which is very, very convenient. And you have a cable from the battery, a positive side, which will go to the solenoid, and then another cable from this other side that goes all the way down to the starter. You also have a negative cable for your battery, which connects to the engine. And as you can see, none of these cables have any ends or connected to anything, so I went to the parts bin and got my assortment. So we have a new negative cable, we have a new positive cable, and we have a new cable that will go all the way down to the starter. So we get those in, and I mean, if the engine ends up being garbage, at least we'll know by using the starter we need it to work, and this has to be done. So as you can hopefully tell, this is my no-cost way of getting battery cables on this car. Clearly, this is not the best way to do it. You would want a top post connector. Anyway, we have a new cable, the solenoid to the battery, and then from the battery to the engine. We have a new cable from the solenoid to the starter. And now we should be able to hotwire it and see what happens. Let's check the oil one last time. It's in there. It's gross, but it's in there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn it over just little by little. Kind of like if we had a breaker bar on the engine. We're just going to use the starter instead. So, let's see what happens. Oh, it's moving. Get you guys in a better spot. And we're stuck. Not good. I'm going to turn this engine over by hand. It has a 15/16 crank bolt. When it turns. Oh. Ow. I want to take that inspection cover off the back. I hear junk in there. Will that matter? Not really, but I was keeping the ratchet on the bolt. Here I'm hearing the starter. I'm just gonna cut those belts. There's no use in keeping those there. They're literally falling into pieces. Look at that. Yeah. It wouldn't have lasted long anyway on the car. Now this one's stuck in the water pump. Oh. Which belt am I holding on to? There we go. Yeah, those are ancient. You can see there's still pieces of them stuck in the engine, or stuck in the pulley. I can hear the starter clicking like it's still engaged, which is a possibility. I was hoping this engine would turn over a little bit easier than it is. This isn't a Chevy. I would have all the starters for it. Ooh. Well, that's not good. Look at the water line on that thing. I guess if it was sitting in the mud, we could have some issues. Okay. I haven't seen that before. But since we have it open, now we can clean it out. Maybe that was one of the reasons why this starter wasn't wanting to work. It's full of gunk. It's sat in the dirt with no flat tires or no wheels on it, it's bound to look like that. It likes to go this way. It does sound like the starter's kind of riding up on it though. Like it never retracted. Look at all this stuff. This is all the stuff that wouldn't fit in the vacuum. But I finally uncovered these spark plugs on this side. I put some PB Blaster on them in hopes to let them soak a little bit before I take them out. But I mean, these little there's like crap was stuck all along this. I mean, they're like, you know, shelves for animal crap. So I'm gonna also take these heater hoses off because I know they're gonna be in the way. Also the heater core probably will leak as well. But let's get these plugs out and see what they look like. All right, we have one bank of spark plugs out. They're all Autolite, they all match. Ignore the wetness because obviously I sprayed PB Blaster over them, but none of them, I mean, they're old, they're used. But I'm not seeing anything, you know, any kind of like physical damage, and they're really not that bad. I've seen a lot worse come out. So, kind of par for the course. I wonder how, if this part number is still any good. BF42. To kind of date how long ago it got plugs. But something else that's amazing is how much yellow paint is still all over this engine. Usually by now all the paint's gone, but somehow it survived. Also, I was able to get all the spark plug wires off without breaking any of them. That's just quite amazing. Usually they're just so brittle, they just the ends pull off and stay on the plugs. But all the plugs came out well, wires came out well. So we're gonna do the other side, and then we're gonna soak the engine with some PB Blaster and then try to spin it again with that old nasty starter. All right, bank number 2. All the plugs look very, very similar. They're all Autolites. They're all just black and sooty, but they're not oily. And there's no mechanical damage on them. So that's good sign. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna fill the cylinders up with some PB Blaster, and then we're going to turn the engine over with the starter. Hopefully it'll go a little faster, and see if we have compression. If, you know, stuff comes out of all the cylinders, then we can move on to spending money on this engine, because I don't like spending money on an engine that has no compression. Why would I put new oil, a new filter, new plugs and all that stuff if it's never going to run? So I think in the past the issue actually was the belts. Believe that or not, I think it was the belts that were making this engine not spin as fast as it probably could. With no spark plugs in, no compression, let's see how bad the starter is. It sounds so bad, guys. It sounds so bad. We're gonna have to do something with that starter, I think. I got the carburetor removed. Here's the gasket and probably a factory spacer that goes with it. But I'm glad I did, and let me show you why. I vacuumed out the top of this carburetor thinking, oh, it had the air cleaner on. There's not much that can get inside of there. Yeah, that's just totally full of crap, both primary and secondary. So you see on YouTube when people just spray stuff down the carburetor and then it magically runs. Yeah, this wasn't going to ever be something like that. Luckily, the primary and secondaries are actually frozen. They don't move, and I'm glad they don't, because all that stuff would have been sucked in the engine. That carb needs gone through anyway. Next, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove a heater hose, and then I'm going to pop the valve covers off just because I'm already this far in, and see what the valve train looks like. And then what I can do is I can hook the battery back up and I can watch everything move, and I can put my thumb in each spark plug hole and see how much compression, if any, this engine has. What's your prediction? What do you think is going to be under these covers? I think we're going to find a bunch of, oh, I thought I changed the oil. Whoops. I think that's what we're going to find. Hopefully, no busted rocker arms, no bent push rods, nothing like that. If I can do it with one hand, I will. Wow. That actually looks really good. Check that out, guys. Look at that. Almost no sludge in this engine. Man, for as crappy as it looks on the outside. Guess that's what happens when you leave your engine or leave your car in a forest so animals can live in it. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Okay. Let's see what the other side looks like. Just as good. Yes. See, it's stuff like this that makes me happy. Look at that. Look at that, guys. Hey, that is what I call potential right there. Maybe it's a Ford thing. Maybe I'm just used to Chevrolet engines that sludge up, but I swear that all the other Fords that I've worked on, well, they didn't look like this. So I'm excited now. I think it's time to buy some things. All right. Sometimes you need the breaker bar to get these off. And now that one cut off, whatever. Whoa, that was full. Ew, it's chonky. I'll let that drain a little bit. Look how old this oil filter is. GM, General Motors Type PF2. Clearly, they didn't want to keep the engine all auto light. GM filter was good enough. Getting dripped on. Ooh, that's gross. Check this out. So I spent a little time just spinning the motor with no spark plugs in it. Spinning, 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 spinning. And every once in a while I could hear a little squirt. And what was happening is you can see that there's oil coming up to the top of the rocker arms. Now, there is not oil in all of the rocker arms, but enough that there is now oil in the bottom of the cylinder head, and most of them are pumped up. I feel like if I'm getting oil through the push rods, that means all the bearings are definitely have oil in them already. So it just needs a little bit of run time, and I think the oil will start to come out. You can see it's kind of already dripping all over everywhere. So now, I still think the starter is going to kind of kill us for today, but I did find new spark plugs. Check this out. So the old ones that came out are Autolite BF42s, and then on the shelf I bought a whole box of just random car stuff probably 10 years ago, and these were part of it. And I've just saved them, and guess what? They fit this car, so I haven't spent any money on anything so far, but I think the starter I'm going to have to. But we'll throw these plugs in, we'll figure out a carburetor, we'll figure out the spark, and we'll see if we can't get this to run. Alright, all the plugs are in. So let's see, I have no faith in this starter that it's going to be able to turn over this engine with compression building. I put my finger in each one of the spark plug holes as I spun it, and I could feel, since I'm wearing gloves, I could feel the cylinder suck in the tip of the glove and then push it back out. So there's compression in all the cylinders. How much? We don't know yet. But I just want to see if this starter is going to be able to handle an engine with spark plugs in it, because it wasn't doing it before. It wasn't handling it before, at least not very well. Alright. Oh, it really doesn't like that. I don't think it's my battery. That solenoid's getting hot. Okay. We're gonna have to do a new starter. There's just no way around it, because it's never gonna run with the starter the way it is. Maybe we should take it apart and look at it. Let's do that. Well, this starter has seen better days. So you can see it's been replaced before. I believe that says remanufactured, endurance tested. I don't know what the brand is that has mountains on it, but the problem is, if you look right here, the teeth have been all ground off and probably wasn't in that great a shape to begin with. So we can play around with it and see if we can't get it to work a little bit better, but I'm thinking we're gonna have to replace it, sadly. All right, we're back, new day, charged battery. I don't know if you can see it down there, but there is a new starter. Let's see how well it wants to turn over. You guys ready? That's pretty good. That will start. It'll at least turn fast enough to hopefully start. So now, we'll move on to the funner things. We can move on to hot wiring the coil and seeing if we get spark, cleaning up the points, and going from there. So the points are cleaned, and what we're going to do now is we're going to hot wire this coil. So I have the wire running from the positive side. We're going to clip it to the battery cable like so, and then hopefully we will have spark. So I need to somehow put this down somewhere where it will ground, where I can also run the, you know what, I gotta put you on a tripod. Actually use the file to file them, but you guys missed it. I didn't get it on the camera, but this thing shocked the crap out of me. Oh yeah, so you can actually manually, you can manually get the distributor to fire by, oh, did you see that? See it pop? Oh, it's sparking there. So I finally got the points to work. The issue I'm having now is the battery doesn't seem like it wants to, you know, it's ancient, it's an ancient battery. So we're gonna try this. I have this carburetor off of a Corvette that actually had running in the last few months, so I know it's a good one. Ooh. Hopefully that's enough to get it to maybe make some noise. So let's plug in the coil. And see what happens. Did you guys see that? Yes, you did. It made noise, but it didn't really run. Not yet, at least. Alright. feel like we lost spark. Didn't do anything. Oh, that was amazing! Yes! Alright, did you guys see that? That was enough to warrant putting actual fuel in the carburetor. Yes! And going from there. It ran. Let's see what it spat out underneath. I'm sure something. Oh, look at all that crap. It came out of the exhaust. This exhaust is just full of stuff. It's really rusted out. That's why the engine was so loud, but looks like we're getting oil up at some of the rockers. There's a lot right here. I'm sure it starts at a certain bolt and then spreads out. That's great. So we need a new battery. That's the main thing we need. And then we need a fuel source. You see that? There's fuel coming up. Yes! That sounded pretty good. Alright, let's see if we can rig up a fuel source. Let's see what happens. Come on, gravity feed. Do your thing. Let's try that. we don't want to run that too much. Whew, because there's no water in the engine at all. Oh, you know what it smells like? It smells like burning poop. Like, it's got this weird earthy poop smell coming out of it, which is not surprising at all considering what I took off of it. But it ran. Look at that. And so the exhaust is so loud you can't really tell what's ticking, what's, you know, I'm pretty sure there's not a knock. It's definitely hitting on all of them, but you can see the push rod's all spinning, all the rockers are moving. It's gonna need heat, it's gonna need water in order to really get going, but it's good enough that we can take it out and put it in the other car. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's kind of sad that the T-Bird won't enjoy the engine, but like I said, there's a dime a dozen T-Birds and there's not very many Mercuries, so there's a little hint on what it's going to go into. But if you're interested in the Thunderbird as is without the engine and transmission, let me know, because I'll sell it and I'll sell it cheap.